What's going on, hobby family? It is so nice to see all of your returning faces. Today, we're going to learn how to take a cheap statue and make it into an awesome bust. We're also going to learn how to make a plinth from scratch. Ever since I was a kid, I loved the show Dragon Ball Z. I remember Monday to Friday, right after dinner, there would be back-to-back episodes of Dragon Ball Z at 8 o'clock on YTV. Then, with the recent introduction of Dragon Ball Super, it reignited the love that I have for the franchise. I mean, I've got statues on my wall and a painting of Vegeta. The statues that I picked up are from a website called Wish. Wish is an online platform that allows you to buy directly from the manufacturer in China. This means that prices are going to be cheaper at the cost of having less quality control. So with that in mind, I decided to pick up a statue of the main character from Dragon Ball Z, Goku. The paint job isn't the greatest, and it's made of some type of cheap PVC plastic. I always thought it'd be really cool to take one of these statues, repaint them, and turn it into a bust. And in today's video, we're gonna cover a ton of topics like layering, airbrushing, glazing, skin, fabric, and so much more. So if there's a video about painting a miniature or a bust where I think you can learn a lot, this might be the one. Before we begin, I want to give a special shout out to everyone who's subscribed to the channel, leaves a comment, and supports this channel through Patreon. If you'd like to see more of these types of videos and other videos, please do consider subscribing. And if you'd like to see the channel to continue to grow, I'm going to leave a link to my Patreon page down in the description below. Now, I don't want to hold you anymore, so let's get to making a custom bust. To start us off, I need to do some cutting. I mark where I want to cut just below the gi belt line and proceed to cut Goku in half with a hobby hacksaw. With our bust prepped, it's now time for some paint. I start by giving it a coat of black primer, followed by a zenithal highlight of white. This allows us to highlight where all the lights would be hitting the bust and gives us a guide for applying details. Now, while Super Saiyan Blue is really cool, nothing will ever compare to the traditional golden hair Super Saiyan. So that's why for today's video, I'm going to be painting his hair yellow. Now, if you'd like to see an in-depth video of how I paint yellow, please do make sure to check out the video in the upper right-hand corner. With his hair complete, we can now switch over to brushwork and work on his skin. So the first color we're going to use is Shadow Flesh from ProAcryl. We're going to cover the entirety of skin with Shadow Flesh. I'm using Tan Flesh next, and I'm going to mix it into Shadow Flesh for a nice second tone. One of the main things to make any skin tone look good is the applying of the highlights in the right area. With our second tone, I start with the highest point where the highlights should be and work my way down to about 80% of the muscle. For our next highlight, we're going to use pure Tan Flesh and apply the previous concept but work our way down to about 60% of the muscle. With that complete, I can grab some olive flesh, mix it with Tan Flesh to create a nice mid-tone, then apply it the same way as before, but move my way down to about 40% of the muscle. Now each layer that I apply, my highlights are getting smaller, while making sure to leave the shadowed areas untouched. For our last highlight, I'm going to take pure olive flesh, thin it down to the consistency of a glaze, and apply it over the very belly of the muscle. To homogenize the skin, I'm going to take Soul Yellow, mix it into our previous mix, and glaze it all over the skin. A glaze is a thin, translucent layer of color that's painted over any previous color. This step is optional for skin, but I wanted to imitate the glow of skin that would be shrouded from a Super Saiyan's energy. To create a creamy, smooth blend, I apply Cassandora Yellow with an airbrush and target the bust from below. Next, we're going to paint his blue shirt. I begin a base coat of deep blue mixed with black. For our first highlight, I take pure deep blue and make sure to cover all the previous work, but leave the very recesses and shadowed areas untouched. The second highlight is going to consist of a mix of white and deep blue. Now this might look harsh, however when it dries it will leave a nice matte finish. Mixing more white into our previous highlight gives us our final look. When this coat is dry, I apply the same color to only the ends of the shirt and add little scratches for a textured appearance. finish off his clothing, I give his torn gi a base coat of Kafanari orange. Mixing some Tiamat orange, roughly 50-50, I add our first highlight to our base coat, Believe the Recesses Alone. Then apply a highlight of pure Tiamat orange. And for the final highlight, I mix our previous So Yellow into pure Tiamat orange and target only the tips of the gi. To smooth out all of our previous highlights, I create a glaze consisting of pure So Yellow and apply it to our previous work. All that's left to do to finish our bust is paint facial details like the tongue, teeth, and eyes. Now before we call this bust done, we need to create a plinth for the bust to sit on. I would show you how I made it, however, I lost the footage. RIP! However, I can explain it. I grabbed a piece of wood that was 3/4 of an inch in thickness. I then cut 4 pieces that were 3 inches in height and width, glued them together, and sanded them smooth. With some extra trim laying around, I used a nail gun to attach the pieces as the glue I was using wasn't holding. Now to fill those holes, I used some milliput to plug the holes and waited for it to dry. After about 3 hours or so, and having the milliput completely dry, I used various sandpaper grits to sand away the extra flash. Add some smoothness to the plinth and fill any gaps that I missed, I painted on some Flex Bond. Flex Bond is mostly used in the cosplay hobby to seal armor pieces and other props. I wanted to make sure that the plinth had a nice smooth finish, which is why I applied Flex Bond. The last thing to do is paint the plinth black. Now any black will do, so because I already had it set up, I used my airbrush. And that's it. All I need to do is attach the bust to the plinth and I'll have a wicked smart custom bust. But do you know what's better than having a wicked smart bust? B-roll. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I do hope that you've enjoyed this style tutorial, and please let me know in the comments if you'd like to see more repaints. If you have any suggestions, let me know down in the comments. Until next time, hobby family, peace on the streets, and make sure to